So, Jonathan, you're responsible for my GT3 RS, even though you had one for me, but we couldn't quite source it. But what you do for a living is find cars like this for people. Right?
Oh, it's an absolute joy.
But this is your car.
Yes, it is.
So I'm excited to get skinny on this thing because I'm not a Carrera GT expert. So let's head out and you tell me the story. First of all, how'd you get this thing?
So a friend called me and offered it to me. It was one of the things where there's a lot of underground deals that go down when you can do a deal quickly and you have a reputation for doing what you say you're going to do. Then people will call you, and I was lucky enough to get that phone call. And the gentleman said, "Look, if you want to buy it and keep it, then you can buy it, and I'd love for you to have it. And if you ever go to sell it, give me a call back and give me first right." So the plan is to keep the car, and I just feel grateful to steward it and have it. It's pretty exciting.
This is a driver. I hate that term. This is a driver's car. There's mileage on it. It's been driven.
That's what I love about it, right? Yeah, is that there's a story behind the car, and I just get to continue the story of it. So it's got 27,000 miles on it. Andy just put on, about 100 miles. Chris, the other Smokies, put about 120 on yesterday. So like I was sharing earlier, the goal is to fulfill other people's dreams. And I'm a dreamer, so I love to fulfill dreams, and a dream fulfilled in driving this car. This car is a lot of people's dream to drive. So why not share it with other people? That's such a great thing to be able to be a part of.
Cool. All right, let's roll. So explain the clutch to me here. What is it, and why is it such a big deal?
It's a Porsche Carbon ceramic clutch, and it's a racing clutch.
You're going to go south on 129.
Okay, perfect.
Down there.
Once you get past first gear, it's really quite simple.
Drives like most other cars.
Drives like most other cars, absolutely. And people are scared of it, but it's finding that release point at the top end of the release, and just continuing on. And the car will start to do it for you. The best thing to do is to the computer is going to blip it and just match it. So you don't want to get on the throttle. You just want to release the clutch and let it do it for you. Fully release the clutch and then give it gas. That's all you got to do. If you understand that, it's pretty simple. I mean, you get a hold of it within, I'd say, a few minutes if you understand and respect the car.
So what's give me the specs on this thing. What are they? V10, right?
Yeah, V10.
Carbon ceramics.
Carbon ceramic
How much
brakes.
does this thing weigh?
It weighs 3,050 pounds.
Okay.
So,
a little lighter than a GT3 RS.
Exactly. Yeah, I was being in the 911. It just feels so different than the 911 because the engine's in the middle of the car. Yeah. And the chassis, the carbon chassis weighs 220 pounds. I think that's what's so unique about this car is the weight of the chassis, and that is actually probably the scariest part of the car. Is just how light that full carbon body is on the car, and then you've got an F1 engine attached to that carbon chassis, and you get a really dynamic car. I mean, it was truly a race car first, right? It shouldn't really belong on the streets, but we got it. I think it's the last analog car that Porsche will make that really is really a track car.
So, what's the horsepower? What's the spec on this thing?
It's about 600 horsepower.
450 foot-pounds of
400 some pounds of torque, and the torquiness is actually what really gets you on the mountains, right? I think you and Andy were talking about it. It's very forgiving. You can be in third gear. I'm in third gear right now, just having a ball, and it's at low ranges. It's very, very powerful. So you can just stay right there in third gear and just have a ton of fun with it. You don't really have to do much more. I mean, you can go down to second. The car will lurch a little bit more in second. It's not as smooth, or the pedal is not as forgiving. Kind of feel that jerkiness.
mystique around it not being like my initial gut reaction to this car is that it's a kind of fast in a straight line because it's light and has a lot of horsepower and has a V10. Not really all that fast, but it really is a car built to go around turns on a track, right? I mean, that's what I'm so shocked about. I don't know. I made up this story about what this car is, not really knowing anything.
Not as smooth as Andy maybe, but it is my car, so.
Yeah, you're driving a little harder. Yeah.
So demystifying the Carrera GT, I think that's a lot of the fun that we're having this morning, right? With this video, is being able to get in the car.
We're out in the rain, right?
Yeah.
Driving 100 or 200 miles and not freaking out about the 200 miles you're putting on it.
Those brakes, I wanted you to feel those brakes too, and the reason why is because they are the carbon ceramics, but they're a lot different than the RS. They feel much more like a cup car pedal, at least the pedal does, because the pedal's so short, you know, it just...
So these are 996 generation brakes?
Yes. It's a 996 parts bin car. I mean, my blinkers are 996, my windshield wipers that are not functioning, the steering wheel, the headlights, which I've got to find a way to replace these headlights. I was driving at 5 a.m. yesterday in the morning heading up to the Dragon, and it was like being candle lights, you know, I could hardly even see.
So is this maintenance like a modern Porsche? Is it cheap to operate this thing?
No, not at all. The maintenance is really where it gets you. And you have to amortize that and understand that over a long period of time if you're going to own the car. It's one of the things, maintenance and service, that you really have to understand if you're going to purchase this car.
So it's Ferrari-like?
It's F40 level.
Yeah.
As far as, I put this car on the level with the F40 just in general, being from that generation, and the F1, which is obviously unattainable, but I think we're getting 80 or 90% of the drive of the F1 in this car, and for a fraction of the price. Pretty neat. The maintenance costs are, Porsche updated their maintenance a few years ago to say every 3 years a service engine rather than by mileage, because a lot of people weren't driving the cars, and that's sort of my goal with this, and why I love doing this video with you, is because I'm really excited about people getting out and driving these cars and putting a lot of miles on them. This one has 27,000 miles, like you said. It's a driver's car. And these cars are so much fun that they just don't belong in garages. So on the braking, what I'm doing there is I'm getting on it real hard at first, like a race car, a cup car, and then I'm just bleeding off the brakes.
That's what Andy and I were talking a lot about that, about even like one of my mistakes is that I tend to go on brakes, off brakes, instead of on brakes, bleeding off the brake, and then what I'll do is I'll on brake, wait, so on brake, off brake, wait around the turn, go past the apex, and then hammer on the throttle, instead of on brake, slightly off brake, slightly on throttle. So making that smooth transition is something that is not innate, that you have to learn.
It is. It's a trail braking. It's a learned behavior. And hey, I'm new to it completely, but it's vital for these mountain roads because you can't be online.
Yeah.
And the car needs to be balanced, especially this car. The transference of weight, and I'm sure you and Andy talked about that.
Yeah.
What you're doing. Sorry, I'm trying to get my seat comfortable. I'm still not comfortable yet. But when you do that and you are trail braking, you hit the brakes hard and then you bleed off the brakes slowly, is the car, you're transferring the weight to the front of the car and it's getting balanced rather than the car feeling uneven, unweighted. And so I think that's really important with this car, especially with the engine in the middle of it, to keep it linear, smooth. This car is like a knife. I mean, it'll cut and bite you, and I haven't found the point of braking on this car. As far as the car coming loose, I put about 2,000 miles on it, and
everybody thinks Paul Walker and that these are a death machine and all of that. I mean, what do you say about that? Because you've been in the mountains hammering on this thing.
It's a car to be respected, and if you approach the car with respect and you understand what it is and you ease into it, you're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be an extremely rewarding car. I'll say I'd probably driven the car 5 to 10% of its capability, and that's why I'm so in love with the car and why I'm so passionate about it, is because it has so much more to give me. You have a relationship with the car, and that's sort of a very big thing for me. A relationship with a car, relationship with other people. That to me is what life is all about. And so if you can form a relationship with a car over a long period of time, you get to understand it. That's what made the Carrera GT for me so intriguing and so fun, was that I could spend 20,000 more miles in this car and put 50,000 miles on it and still be learning about it, still be understanding what is it, how can I do this differently, how can I do that differently. It's so different than a 911 in that way, and that's what made the car so unique to me and why I bought it. That's the story of why I purchased the car, was because it was just becoming a classic, and we were going to be a part of the story of the car becoming vintage, right? It's a very modern car that is becoming vintage. And there's the other Smokies. Look. Oh. Nice.
So, talk to me about you're an expert in acquiring these cars for yourself or other people. Talk to me about the business aspect of this car. I mean, how do you acquire something like this? Like, what are these worth? What do they cost? What's the maintenance cost? So tell me a little bit about your thought process there.
Well, they're a ton of fun to hunt down, right? Because there's 1,270 units roughly that were produced worldwide. 600 roughly coming to the U.S. 400 of those were GT silver over, either terracotta, ascot, or gray black. There were 3 interior color choices you could get, 5 exterior color choices, being GT silver, seal gray would be the next. Well, black. I'm sorry. GT silver black would be the next produced, then seal gray, then faience yellow, and guards red. And then there were some non-metallic and metallic PTS cars, about 18 of those. So we're talking 600 cars, right? Not a ton of cars.
How many cars do you think have been crashed, that are gone?
That's such a great question. I haven't. I wish I knew the answer to that.
You think it's a significant amount or an insignificant amount?
I would say it's between 10 and 20%.
Oh, so a significant
Pretty significant.
amount. Yeah. Because of the lack of traction control or stability. It has traction control, but not stability control.
Yes. So a lot of these cars were tracked. They were, first of all, hard to sell in 04 and 05. They were sitting on dealer lots. Yeah. You probably remember that. And they were 300 grand, 400 grand.
Nobody wanted them, right.
Nobody wanted them.
The LFA, all these iconic cars that nobody really wanted to buy. And now, good luck trying to find one.
And then guys that did buy them, I mean, I've heard stories of guys that would, go around to different tracks, tracking the Carrera GT. So, I know there's one that was lost at Sebring, Laguna. There's been a lot of cars that have just, because of the chassis, and when you it's a carbon chassis, so when you break that's really difficult to fix. It's very costly.
All right, so
and then there were a lot that were exported as well.
So how do you start the process? Let's say I wanted to buy one of these tomorrow because I loved it. How do I do that? Well, I come to you, but how do you do that for me then?
The process at Merit is very client-centered and relationship-focused. So it starts off as a conversation around what are your goals for collecting cars? How are you going to use the car? Are you going to track the car? Are you going to use it in the mountains? How long do you want to keep it? So there's a lot of questions that we go through from an advisory service to really understand what your goals are. And it's not a traditional dealership model. Even dealing in supercars, you know, we sell the 918s, we sell the CGTs, the P1s, the LaFerraris. But it's really focused on the client and what their goals are and understanding. You know, you were a financial advisor, so you understand that approach, and that's the approach that we take, because there's a long-term approach with these cars. These are investment-grade vehicles that are increasing in value. And we want to make sure that we're meeting what the client wants. So it starts there, and if we end up on a Carrera GT, which a lot of guys are now getting into the market because it's sort of at, you know, what would say a moderate to low point, and a lot of people see the market going up for these cars over time, then we start looking for one. We do that on an agreement basis where you contract us and commission us to go find that car. We determine what color you want, and then we work our private networks. So at any given time, you can go online and you can go on DuPont Registry or Auto Trader, probably find 6 to 12 to 18 of these cars for sale at any given time online. But you don't know the story of that car, the life of that car, and there's so many missteps you can take when buying one of these cars. There's so many little nuances that you have to know, and details that are, you know, the secret sauce that I would say of merit by transacting on these cars, that we know what to look for. And then we also have a great relationship with a CGT mechanic, a master mechanic that has done over 60 services on these cars. And what we do is we fly him out to do a full inspection, and we commission him. He flies out to wherever the car is. He puts the car up on a lift. It takes to rack this car is 2 hours itself, and then to take it apart, you know, full deal is about 10 hours to fully inspect the car. So we're taking the under panel bodies off. We're taking we're getting under the car, and we're looking at how's the chassis, what's the state of the engine, has the engine been out of the car, have the bolts been torqued, how has the car been maintained. You can look at a lot of that from the service records, like a doctor could look at your medical records and see what the state of your health is. That's how we approach these, I would say, modern vintage supercars.
So would someone, these guys, do they pay you up front to do that, or do you guys get compensated after the acquisition of the car?
The compensation is directly correlated to the acquisition of a car. So we take a deposit up front because we're constantly getting inquiries and requests to go find me this car or that car. So it's really important for us to understand how to best spend our time. And so we do that under a deposit. And then we search our private networks to find the car.
So you get some weirdos promising you a big gain. You take a deposit, you do all the work, you find a car, he decides, I'm out. Then there's a non-refundable portion of that.
Correct.
That's how you're paid for your time.
You know, that's probably happened. It's never happened because we're so relational focused that we can really understand, you know, who our clients are.
Yeah. And
they value us. They understand that we're providing a great service that at the end of the day, you know, 10 times out of 10, we'll negotiate 70-80% of our fee inside the negotiation. So we'll save you money on the buy side, and you'll have the peace of mind of knowing that you're getting a good car, because you can't take a bad car and make it good. You can take a good car that needs service and make it great.
Yeah.
But if the chassis has been compromised, or the car's had paint work, or it's been improperly taken care of, it's hard to go back on that.
Especially if someone's masking that and they're asking for collector grade value, but yet you can't recover that.
I'll tell you, there's so many stories. We just did a Faience yellow car, which there's 44 of those in the US, and 2 weeks ago, and we flew our tech out to Arizona to inspect it, and he showed up, and the guy has a lift in his garage, and he was telling Jimmy is the master tech, he was pointing out little things about the car, right? He was like, this bumper has this issue here. I just drove the car about a week ago. I think I may have, had an over rev on the car. He was telling us stuff, the owner that we were buying the car for.
Yeah.
And that really immediately told us, this is a really great owner.
Yeah.
When he's showing up and he's being transparent and he's saying, look at this, look at that, we would have caught all that stuff. I mean, we have a full report of everything on the car. What's the, what are the dates on the tires? How are the brakes? What's the over rev report? The seals on the car. Have the valves been adjusted? Have the camshafts been replaced? Have the pencil coils been done? Has the RMS bearing been done? So there's all these maintenance service issues that we would have caught. But the fact that the owner of the car, who had stewarded the car for 4 years, and then our next client was going to be getting it, and we're building a collection for him, it showed us a lot about the owner and the car, and that immediately put us at ease to be able to do that transaction. And he was understanding about negotiating in some of the service. So we pretty much shared in the cost of the service, and we completed the deal. And it was a no-hassle, peace of mind transaction for both sides that were both private, and at the end of the day are very happy. And that is 95% of our deals are private to private. They're end users that understand, and collectors. So we do very few deals with dealers or auctions or anything of that sort. It's all privately done, and the best part about that is that it's just fun, and you know exactly what you're getting.
So, from your business perspective, in that case does the buyer and the seller compensate you something for the sale?
The seller doesn't compensate anything because we went to him and we approached him and we found the car.
Okay.
So the person that we're representing.
Was the car for sale, or was it just somebody you knew of?
It was somebody that we knew of where the car was off market. Sorry, I really wanted to pass him. This is a lot of fun having this conversation with you about what I love doing with my life, right? So I'm extremely passionate about everything that we just talked about.
I'm just interested. A lot of businesses are afraid to share the numbers, the deal. It's interesting to me. Like how does a chemical manufacturer make money? How do you do that? How do you make it a career? How do you make it a business? And not just go out and work for free. I mean, you can't work for free.
No, you can't. No,
but how does it work? And then what's the exchange in value, right? So when I hire you, I expect to pay you something, and then what value do you provide me? How do we exchange in that value, or how does that relationship benefit both of us?
Well, collectors have, they want to have peace of mind. I think is number one. They want to know that there's an expert that knows what they're doing and has their interests at heart and can help advise them. So for that, we charge 6%, either on the buy or on the sell side, either side.
Here, a little over 8250 is the red line.
Exactly, 8250 is the red line. Yep.
So this car, I mean, what is the range? What are these cars worth? What do they sell for?
They vary from, I would say, at a low end, about for a good car, $650,000, and they can go up to 1.3, 1.4 million.
So, like that yellow one is going to be more on the upper end.
The yellow one was a 2,400 mile. No, excuse me, take that back. Sorry, I mixed that up with the Guards Red one that we also did about 2 months ago. The Guards Red had 2,400 miles on it. We did a full engine service on that car. That was about, we did a few other things, a starter, and the headlights had been blacked out, so we bought some new headlights. That was about $38,000. The engine service was about 26 of that. The clutch was good, measured around 30 millimeters.
So they have to drop the tranny and measure the clutch?
They do.
Shoot. So an average engine service is in the 20 to 30,000 range?
Yes, depending on if the camshafts have ever been done, which most of them haven't been. The camshafts are a known manufacturer defect from Porsche. There's 4 of them, and they pit over time. And so those parts are about 20 grand, but Porsche has been been warranting those for some of its better clients, and then you pay for the shipping, the freight from Germany, and the labor to install them. But if you're doing that when the engine's out of the car, that's the time to do it. Really, the time to do the clutch and the engine service at the same time is what you want to do.
So has this one been done?
This car has not been done, not to my knowledge. They said they had an engine service about 2 years ago, but I don't believe that the valves have been replaced in this car, not to my knowledge. It's really hard to understand because I bought the car 4 months ago, and there was not a ton of ownership history on the car, and that's what's so exciting to me, to be involved in these cars. I would say on the front end of their vintage life, is to start to really maintain and put a log together for each car that we're a part of to make it better, right? I'm really interested in improving these cars for the long term while driving them. So it gets me excited to get guys in these cars, sell them to them, and understand that they're going to enjoy them and drive them for the next 15 years and put some miles on them. And a lot of the reason that I was excited about this morning with you was to demystify this car. And I think if we can, explain it, talk about it, and get people excited about it, that a lot of people will start putting more miles on the car and drive these cars because they're just so much fun to drive.
Yeah. So how do you feel about, driving around? This is an $800,000 car. We're driving around in it. Like, how do you feel about that? This is your life savings on the line here. What is that? Tell me what that feels like. How do you do that?
Oh, so this is going to go online, right?
Yeah. I want to know. I want to know the real, not the bull crap. This is your car. This is your life saving. This is your money.
Yes.
We're just driving down the road next to a Nissan Sentra. What is that? What goes through your head? Do you try not to think about that? I
really don't like to think about that.
Yeah.
But I'm extremely passionate about the cars, and I was able to, I had the money to be able to buy the car, and my understanding was I was going to take great care of it for a long time, and not wreck the car and drive it and put a lot of miles on it. You try not to think about the value as much, and I know it gets people excited to always talk about the value. What's the appreciation? What's the deal? Tell me about. Got a little straight here.
That off throttle. Yeah,
that's full
legit.
on there.
That's legit.
So I'm not too worried about the
I can
future.
see that. But what is it? So you insure this thing? How do you do that?
Of course. Yeah, you insure it for stated value, which insurance costs, and you understand, is about 1% of the value of the car a year.
Yeah.
So call that $8,000 a year.
Yep.
And we went over the maintenance costs, between 30 and 40 grand every 3 years. So that's about 10 grand a year, just averaged over a few years. So the carrying cost on the car, if you're going to drive it and enjoy it, are between 15 and 20 grand, not including fuel and all that. So
and then if you're lucky, the car, you maintain it, stays in good shape, you don't wreck it, you drive it, but then it appreciates in value because there are only so many of them.
It appreciates, and my philosophy around the car is obviously put a ton of miles on the car. I bought a driver, but pass it down, keep it. And what I'm seeing in the market is there's more than 500, say there's 500 cars left in the US. Yep. There's more than 500 serious Porsche collectors also in the US. And if you have a serious Porsche collection, like you have a 73 RS, you have a 959, you have the Carrera GT, you have the 918, which the 918 is what got me started actually on why I wanted this car.
Yeah.
Growing up, around the 918, selling them, then you're gonna have a Carrera GT. So every serious Porsche collection is gonna have one of these cars in their collection, especially as they get demystified. People understand what they are, how exciting they are. when maybe we can't get access to fuel anymore, or we're driving around, in electric cars, and they're charging us a toll to drive these cars. I mean, this is what we're looking for as an experience, right? So this is our hobby. This is why you asked me what's going through my head when I'm driving the car. Well, this is my hobby. I mean, this is how I enjoy spending my time. I'm up here with the Smokies this weekend because I love driving the mountain roads. I'm more of a mountain driver. Bert, my partner, much more of a track guy, right?
Yeah.
He loves to take the Cup cars and the Club Sports and go to Road Atlanta, VIR, and Sebring and drive the tracks. But man, I love being out on the open road. This is therapy for me.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Can you just feel how smooth that is, though?
Yeah, it's so much different than what I expected. I expected it to be uncomfortable, annoying. I expected it to be very engaging, but I expected it to be an annoying experience. That's the only way I can put it. Like it's much more refined than I expected it to be.
What gave you that impression that you thought it was going to be more either diabolical, annoying, or loud, or?
I don't know. I think these cars just have a mystique of being a widowmaker type, and I think that's clearly that's just made up. I just didn't expect it to be like a car that you would bring to the mountains and rip it and have fun. I don't know why I expected it to be a straight line car.
Do you think it's because of the Paul Walker story?
Probably.
So tires are the biggest thing on this car. Every time when I sell one of these cars, the first thing I do is I say we got to have to get the upgraded, Michelin Pilot Sport Cups.
But you like street versus like our combo, like Cup 2s or something on these cars better?
I do. I think they're extremely grippy. I mean, they came up with the new spec tire Michelin did a few years ago specifically for this car.
Yeah, Super Sport. I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just totally changes the car. A lot more grip. But it's so smooth.
Yeah.
It's we can be having a conversation and it's incredibly linear.
We've been driving for 2.5 hours, and other than me being a little big for the seats, it's fine.
So you feel comfortable in it? I mean, as far as the size-wise, the seats fit you okay?
Yeah.
They do have extra large seats.
Yeah.
That was an option.
I want some extra large.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we can take care of that.
I can definitely use a little bit more room. Yeah.
We'll put that on your order, okay?
I don't know. It's hard for me to relate because I don't have a collector's mentality. Like, I just don't collect things. So I don't know that I would have a desire. I'm a Porsche fan, but I don't know that I'm a Porsche collector type. So to me, I like experiencing it from right here, seeing your passion for the car, but I don't have a desire for one. Maybe that would change if I was in a different tax bracket. I don't know. It's hard to say. Like if I was, if I had $25 million and I, and because I don't have that burning desire for this car like you have. If I had $25 million and I got in this, we had this weekend, I try to ask myself, would I go buy one? I probably would. I probably wouldn't keep it forever. I would want to have it to experience for a couple of years, drive it, experience it, and then move it on to the next person.
Yeah, excellent. See, everybody has, and that's why I like talking about this, everybody has a little different approach.
Yeah.
And you sort of have to understand that, especially from our profession and my role. It is different, for everybody. For me, I play the long term on this car.
Yeah.
And it's, I have 2 kids under 2, and I have a daughter and a son. And you talk about relationship to the car and relationship to your friends and family. And, my dream is to have my daughter or my son experience and drive this car with me.
Yeah.
And pass it down to them. So actually, it really doesn't essentially matter to my life at all what it's worth.
Yeah.
So if I'm able to afford it, buy it, and drive it, and experience it, and share it with other people, there's nothing greater than that. I mean, the goal the goal in this car was to fulfill dreams. It was a dream fulfilled for me.
Yeah.
And I know that just sounds like a line or whatever, but I really mean that. I mean, it's a lot of guys' dream to drive this car. So many guys aren't driving them. Why not buy one and then let your friends drive it? That straightaway was just begging us.
So what other cars do you have? Like, what do you drive every day?
So I have a truck that I drive, and
like
my wife has and my wife has an RX 350 for the kiddos.
Okay.
Which if we have another kid, that's going to have to change because you can't fit 3 kids in a.
So you have those 2 cars and this.
That's it.
That's a pretty.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
So you're really skinny on the other cars, and then you're light on one. So I'm I'm top heavy.
Yeah, I got it. So what's the longer term plan? Are you a collector?
I think
a collector?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we'll see, right? I mean, it has to do with income, but I don't know where we're headed here.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking. I think we're going right. Yeah, right.
Matt, I don't know if I'm a collector. Look, I'm 31 years old.
Yeah.
I haven't really figured out what my place is yet, right? I mean, did you know what you were doing when you were 31?
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm 39. That's part of the spice, is if you can recognize that, who cares?
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to have it all figured out.
I don't at all.
Yeah, and I get the sense that you're pretty good with that, and have been good with that, accepting. Like, you don't know what your long-term deal is with this car. Just have it and figure it out.
It's definitely a mystery. As long as this car continues to intrigue me, which it has, and I think it will continue to, I'll keep it. And
so what if I said I'll give you 200 grand more than you paid for it today?
I'd have to say no today.
Would you?
I would.
I mean,
theoretically, I could just go to find. You're right. I would just go find another one. I don't think you would. You would want to do that because you could go find a nicer one than this car. You could go find a 10,000 mile one. So it wouldn't make sense for you to offer 200 grand more than I paid for it. But I'm also not ready to part with it.
Yeah.
We started off this conversation too. The gentleman that I bought it from he's a gentleman, and I told him that if I ever go to sell the car, that he has first right of refusal to buy the car back, and I would honor that. I mean, a big part of who I am, even in our business, and he knew I was in the business, was being men of our word, giving our word, our reputation, and doing what we say we're going to do, having integrity, because the car business is not known for that. So to be able to experience these cars, and if he wants to, if I've experienced it for 10,000 miles and he'd like to buy it back, he's going to be the first one to have the opportunity before anybody else. So that's the reason I have to say no to you, because I have to call him first. And I don't want to
honor the source. That's what I always say. Honor the source.
Yeah, it's because of him, that I'm able to be a part of the story on this car. So,
and that's I talk about this a lot, and I've been kind of marinating on this subject of. So some people might look at it as, okay, you're in the business of buying and selling cars, so you're precluded from being a human, right? So you always have to bend over backwards for everybody, and everybody owes you something. Well, instead, like think about this relationship you have with the gentleman you bought the car from. There's 2 sides to it. So him as the seller, he's not owed anything more than you as the buyer, other than just common courtesy.
Right.
So if I go to a dealership, dealerships can be brutal, but if I'm buying a car from them, they don't owe me something. They're providing me a service. I should be gracious and happy that they're able to provide me that service. And so this, I think that's the ultimate example of, two humans being gracious to one another. You're not in a transaction, you're in a relationship. It's very different than just transacting. And that's your entire business, that's your entire existence.
You nailed it. You really nailed it. And it's a passion business, right? It really is a passion business and a lifestyle business. And so
but I look at it, I go to the grocery store, they don't owe me something.
No.
They don't owe me anything. They don't owe me some customer service. They shouldn't treat me poorly, just like I shouldn't treat them poorly. I'm happy that I'm able to go there and buy something from them. They should be happy that I'm there purchasing something from them. They don't owe me a discount. I don't owe them. Again, I'm not interested in transactions in life. And I try to treat that whether I'm buying a grill or a car or paper towels. And if you do that at all times, then you just live a better existence. So I'm asking people to do that in my business when they're buying things from me. Look, I understand that I'm delivering you a service, but I don't owe you anything.
Right.
You don't owe me anything.
Right.
But let's say if there's a problem, let's have a conversation. Let's figure it out. And I'm hoping you won't take advantage of me, and I'm certainly not going to take advantage of you. Instead of, it's always, I don't like one-sided transactions. Where you go to the movie theater and the movie theater owes you something. Like your popcorn was a little burnt, so you go and just throw it in someone's face. And I don't think that's the way to be.
It feels certainly with the dealership too, it feels like there's things being hidden, right? You may feel like when you're buying a car from me that I'm hiding things from you.
Yeah.
And so if we can get rid of that and we can create full transparency around what the car is, what the car cost, and what the fee is for that acquisition, it creates for a much deeper, I would say, long-term relationship.
Yeah.
And
so how do negotiations go? You're dealing with the top end. I'm sure you deal with a lot of people that have lots of money, that negotiation is a sport. So how do you manage that? Because I'm sure a lot of times you have relationships on both sides of the transaction. How does that work?
It's personalities. I would say the personalities can be very interesting, and so that's why the relationships become so key, because if you don't know who you're dealing with and you can't read that person, then the negotiation's not going to go very well. There are guys that become friends of ours, that are really in our business and deeply involved and extremely loyal. And I think back to your point too, is that I actually want to do business with you. And the reason is because, number one, I like you. You're a real guy on the other side, and you have a business, and obviously you have to make money, but I should want to buy from people that I like and that I have a friendship and a relationship with, versus just going for the best deal out there, right? Because there's a long-term loyalty approach. I'm going to call you for business, or I'm going to make a phone call as well to guys. Say I only have one Carrera GT, but I have 5 guys that I know that want them, which is often the case. I'm going to call the guy first that I have the best relationship with, that I have the deepest relationship with, right? Just like you would call your best friend first. It's the same exact thing.
So tell me this. So I'm a pretty timid negotiator, right? I just tend to pay what someone's asking. So let me create a hypothetical scenario. We have a 55-year-old, shrewd, very wealthy, very intelligent, heavy negotiator type who owns a Carrera GT that I decided, I came to you and I wanted to buy.
Right.
You have a relationship with him. You have a relationship with me. You know me. You know that I'm not going to do a good job of negotiating. How would you protect me? How would you help me get? Again, I'm not looking for a good deal. I'm looking for a fair transaction. Because my tendency would be to show up and just pay. Okay, he's asking $800,000. I'll give him $800,000 when the car's worth $770,000. Like, how would you help me through a transaction like that?
So there's 2 ways that could go. It's a great question. The owner of the car depends on who he is and what he's like. If he has named his price and he's very firm on his price, you don't want to negotiate because you may lose the car.
Okay.
So that's also very important to understand.
So you guys will have a feel for that.
We will have a feel for the personality of the person that we're buying the car from. And there's a lot of guys out there that they'll name their price, and they've named a fair price, and especially the market is what the market is.
Right.
Okay, we can't change that, and we know the range of which the cars should be. So if the car is within range, that starts the conversation. If it's above the range, we're not having the conversation with the seller either way, right? Because it's a moot point, and especially if he's really firm on his price. And then what we do is, to negotiate on your behalf, is we use the facts. Let the facts speak for itself. The car has a story, it has a life, and that's why the inspection process is so vital on cars that I would say over $500,000. I mean, even on an RS, a 997 RS, which I love that car, that platform. It's also really important to PPI that car. I have a guy buying a car for me right now, a 33,000 mile 997 RS from 2010. He lives in California. He feels great in dealing with us. He's been on Renlist. He's read all the reviews about Merit, and the relationship has been there, but the car is still what the car is. So we take the car in for PPI, we do the inspection. If there's anything that's found, we just fix it. We pay for it. It's not in the negotiation, because we want to make sure that you're getting a good car. So
you go into it, so you would advise me, so all right, Matt, this is what we think this thing's worth. So, but how do you do that when you're doing both sides of it?
We'll say what we think it's worth, and then during the inspection, if we find some things that need to be addressed on the car, then we go back to the owner and we speak factually. We say, here's what we found, here are the details. You know, the tires need to be redone. We need new tires. That's $2,500. We need new TPMS sensors. You know, that's $1,000. So that's $3,500 right there. The engine, the full major engine service has never been done. Those range from $22,000 to $28,000, depending on once you get the engine opened up. We don't know if the valves need to be adjusted yet or not. So there's, you know, 3 or 4 things. The clutch. There's 3 or 4 things immediately off the top that we can say and share that with the owner. And if he's a reasonable owner, he'll understand, and he'll say, okay, why don't we, you know, meet halfway? And so we cut that in half, and we take 20 grand off the price, and we do the transaction. And it's very simple, hassle-free. And both people love that.
Yeah.
That creates for a really great, trusting, honest purchase. Look, see, I'm on 5th gear, and you hardly even know it. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, because I struggle with the negotiation part. What about if I wanted a new car? Do you guys do that stuff a lot often?
We do. I mean, it's far and few between, because it's much easier just to go and purchase a new car yourself.
Yeah.
But it depends on, you know, what type of new car it is and how involved you want us in the process. If you want us to consult you and advise you on what are the options to have on a new car, then we'll do that, you know, because you want to have the right options on the car when you go to sell it on the back end. You don't want to have a car that's poorly optioned that you can't sell.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we'll spec cars for guys. We'll work with Porsche dealers that we do have relationships with, and we're happy to do that. I wouldn't describe, that's not the fun part of the business though, right? The fun part of the business is the hunt, the hours that it takes to find the cars in our private networks, and then bringing a car to a guy that he couldn't otherwise find and putting the deal together. I mean, that's just so gratifying. And then how exciting the buyer is to get the car. I mean, it's just exhilarating for a guy to get a car that he's dreamed about for, 10 years, to have like a Carrera GT and for it to show up. I have one that Reliable is delivering to Salt Lake City on Monday, a red car. And we did the engine service on it. That took 45 days to get that engine service done. And he's receiving the car, and he's like a kid on Christmas. He couldn't wait to get it, so. How's our GPS doing?
Good. 34 minutes. We're going left on 141 in about 2.5 miles.
Did we get the early stuff on the GoPro?
Yeah.
Really?
All of it, yep.
It's a great video.
Yeah, this is good.
This is really good. Thanks for doing this.
This is what I do.
You were the man.
What other questions do I have? let's say on the selling side, I want to sell my car. I call you versus trading. Trading it in. Let's say I had 5 cars and I wanted to have 3, so I don't have another car I want to acquire. I mean, how does that process work? So what do I do?
So you're looking to downsize, right?
Yeah.
So Merit will take care of the full package. We'll put together the list of cars, create a range for what we know that they'll sell for. So we'll discuss that before the cars leave your garage. We'll put a plan together in place. We'll say the cars, like a 2011, say RS. If we're not going to buy the car from you. Now we do that. We have 2 options. Either we'll buy the car. We prefer outright sales because it allows us to get the car and then we can control it fully. So that would be the trade option. But if you want to maximize your return on the car, the commission structure for a consignment typically is more favorable to the person selling the car.
Because you're going to have to buy it at a bigger discount in order to protect your back end, right? So
it's the cost of capital is all it is. So, and I'll just be transparent with the numbers because that's the way we are. And all dealerships are going to pretty much operate within this.
Oh, we're going left, sorry.
Okay. Most dealers are going to shoot between 10 and 15% return when they buy it. So let's say there is a 2010 GT3 RS with 15,000 miles. We expect to make 10 to 15% on that. So we may buy the car if it's a good option car, has ceramics, has front list, has all the right options, which is also very important to us at Merit. We won't buy any cars that aren't the top 1 to 5% of cars from a condition standpoint. If it has an accident, we're not touching it. If it has paint work, we're not touching it. The reason for that is because Merit's known for having really quality cars, and it's important for us to maintain that level of detail and reputation in the market. And so, but back to the numbers, we would offer, say, $140,000 on that car, and that's what we would buy the car for. And we would expect to sell the car between $155,000 to $160,000. So that would be a trade number. So a trade number would be $140,000 for Merit to expect to sell the car between $155,000 and $160,000. So those are the numbers. Those are transparently the numbers on a roughly $140,000 car. That would be an outright buy. And typically our preference versus consignment, which we've had a lot of consignments come in and really been flooded with those. So we're a lot more pickier on the type of cars that we're going to take in on consignment because it takes a lot of time from our side too, right? You have to get the car fully detailed. You have to get it professionally photographed, which we really pride ourselves on taking great photographs, writing very great descriptions on the car so it's detailed. You know if the car has an over rev on it, if the car has a clear bra on it, where the cars come from. So we write really thorough descriptions so that, because a guy like you who's buying a GT3 or GT3 RS doesn't want to have to call and get all those details. He just wants you to tell him up front. If he's interested, he's going to call you. And typically he's going to have a few more questions and then you're going to work out a deal. Most deals that I do happen within a few hours. And we price the cars pretty much right on top of the market where we know they're going to sell. And so there may be a little negotiation, but our philosophy at Merit is not to price cars way out in la la land where they're just going to sit on the market, right? Like, we like deals beget other deals. So we know the core of the car is going to sell. We're going to price it correctly, and accordingly it's going to be a great car. You're going to get a great example, and you buy it. On the consignment side, it's 6%. And I think one of the biggest struggles in our business right now is understanding the time that it takes to go through that process of prepping the car, photographing the car, writing the description, getting it advertised, not only on our website, which I'm learning a lot more guys are looking at our website than I ever thought. We do very little marketing. Most of our cars sell just with our inside of our clients. And the best cars sell typically before ever hitting online as well, just because we have placed that car, already.
Make a couple calls.
Make a couple phone calls.
Who's looking for what, right?
Exactly. But if the car does go up online, then you have to handle all the phone calls that come in, the tire kickers, all that stuff. And so a lot of guys understand the consignment process. Look, I'll get a little bit more for my car, but it'll take the time and hassle out of it. I don't want to deal with it. You take the car, we ship the car to Merit at our facility, that secure facility. I think and you didn't see it on Thursday, but you've been in there before. It's changed a lot. We have a lot more cars in there. We have about 55 cars in there now, and a lot of storage cars as well. And we're really creating a destination in Atlanta for guys to hang out, have a lounge, not be hit up for business, for anything, but come relax, view the cars, be with like-minded people. And we just happen to have all the auxiliary services where your car doesn't have to move. It can be stored, it can be taken care of. It's high-end detailing, ceramic coating, clear bras, all that stuff. Your car is sort of concierge to the effect. If it need to run it down to Perimeter, Porsche or whatever, we're a mile down the road from them. So,
where does the name Merit come from?
Bert, really, my business partner Bert came up with the name. It comes from, it means to have a good reputation and to be worthy of earning your keep, per se. So the philosophy around Merit is a good name is more desirable than silver and gold. So really putting money third, fourth, fifth on the list, and putting people number one, and relationships 1 and 2.
So how do you get into this? How does this start?
The business?
Yeah.
Oh man, it starts with taking care of one person and doing a good job.
No, I mean, like, how did you guys actually physically start the business?
We started by being out on the track and building relationships out on the track, and then getting asked to do certain things for guys that we met. So whether it was buy or sell a car, broker a car, locate a car, those type of things. And you do, that's what people don't understand about building a business, is it takes a long, and I know you get this really well because your Obsessed Garage is growing astronomically and you're doing awesome things, is that it takes a long time and you have to do it right in the beginning, and it's a lot of long hours, and that's what I don't think is talked about it's so exciting to get in this type of business, right? I want to sell supercars. I want to, I want to be around this, but they don't understand. I have 2 kids under 2. They don't understand how much work it is, how much time it takes.
So take me back. You guys are kind of, so how do you meet? So does Bert, did he start the business, or did you guys start it together?
Bert and I started it together. Bert is the CEO and founder of it because he had 10 years of relationships coming into the business when we started it in 2014.
Yeah.
He was out at the track at AMP and different tracks. He had a GT3. He had 15,000 laps on AMP. He had an experience business where they would take you out in a Ferrari or a Porsche, and he would coach you.
So that was his business before.
Velocity was his business before, in supercars, exotics, driving around the track, coaching people.
So he didn't sell cars.
He didn't sell cars. Okay. Not until about 5 years ago.
So he has all his relationships. You meet him at the track?
I met Bert actually at the beach down at 30A through his brother and friendship that I had with his brother Jed.
So what were you doing?
I was doing consulting for cloud computing for a company called Eccentric, and I was working for a guy that is the CEO, is a guy that I respected, and he taught me a lot of things that I took into this business. But I was an account manager. I was like handling accounts with CPA firms where we would virtualize the servers where they could access the for these different softwares, Thomson Reuters, in the cloud from wherever they were. So it was technology consulting.
So then how does so what was the first concept? So you said we're gonna buy and sell cars. Well, how did you you have these relationships, so how did you come up with the business? Did it kind of naturally come up, or did you guys sit down and say, here's what we're going to do to make money?
I think you come up with a dream and you come up with a vision, which is great to do that. But what you just start doing something. Just start somewhere, right? And you figure it.
What was that?
You figure it out along the way. So finding people cars, brokering cars, locating them, putting the deal together, and purchasing the car.
So who's the first client that you say, okay, we're going to do this for, and here's what we're going to charge? Like, how do you? I don't understand how you get started going left. How did you get started day one?
That'd be a great question for Bert. I mean, it started with GT3s.
Okay.
It was like 2007, 2008 GT3s that Bert met. I mean, Bert met guys like John Baker.
Okay.
Right out at the track, or a handful of other guys. This was 5 years ago.
Your conversation, guys were like, "Man, I'd really like to get a GT3," and he says, "I can find one for you." And then he was probably making a spread, I guess, right?
I think he was making around $1,000 to $1,500.
Okay, just kind of doing it on the side, and then eventually. So then, when do you show up?
I showed up right alongside him about 2014 when we started it, and he was getting out of velocity, and he sort of coached me along the way what to look for too, and taught me a lot about the Porsches because I didn't really know. I mean, I was a BMW guy actually. I had a 135i.
So he had more clients than he could handle. You come in, he brings you under his wing, teaches you how to do it, negotiate, buy, sell, develop. You already know how to somewhat develop relationships because that's what you're doing. And
number one thing that Bert really taught me, aside from the Porsches and what they were and what to look for, was how to actually, and this may sound wild, but how to leave money on the table, and from a business perspective, to have a long-term approach with the relationship. So if something goes wrong in the deal, you just take care of it, and you put the relationship first. That's the number one thing that I would say take away that Bert taught me.
You're on left. So then, 2014, do you have an office? Do you have a building? What are you guys doing? Are you doing it out of your house?
Working out of coffee shops and our house and on the road. So we would also do track events where we would do driver coaching. And I say we, it was mainly Bert. And I was just there to help facilitate the day. I remember one of the first ones that we did was at Atlanta Motorsports Park, and we had a client that brought his 918 and his GT3 RS in lava orange, his 918 in liquid silver, and his Speciale coupe in white. That's actually still on our blog from like 4 or 5 years ago. And he had 5 of his friends that he had met on the 918 drive over in Europe when they were taking delivery of their 918s back in 15 and 16. And he was gracious enough to invite his friends, and we were happy enough to go to the track, put together a day that was fun for these guys to drive these cars in a safe environment and coach them. And so we did some driver coaching. It was a very intimate group with about six of us, and met those guys and started forming relationships with them and just stayed in touch. You know, didn't ask for anything, didn't push anything, because guys at this level that own these cars, they get it. They understand. You know, once you're a known entity as well, and you have a reputation, you don't have to explain very much. It's sort of just, the business just flows. It happens word of mouth.
So then these guys start buying a bunch of cars. Then when do you get an office?
So we went back and forth with the decision to get an office or not, right? To be tied to a piece of real estate, there's a lot of debt that comes on with that, a lot of responsibility. Do I even want to go into an office every day, or do I just enjoy hopping on a plane a few times a month, going out for a day to look at a collection here, and enjoy, you know, the collectors and build it that way? And it wasn't until a third guy came into the picture. His name is Mark, and he was a friend that we've known for about 10 years in a totally separate business. But he said, guys, you really need to think about getting a building. And Bert and I were just too busy to even look around Atlanta and figure out where we wanted to be. And so he took the liberty and the initiative to just find us a building. He knew we would need about 20 to 30,000 square feet. And he found the building, he brought us there. And the only way I can describe it, Matt, is it just felt right. You know, a lot of times I'm a very logical person, but sometimes you walk into a space and you're like, you get it. And that's how it was with Merit Garage. You know, we saw the vision, we saw the place. It was an old limousine. You know, you were there. It was an old limousine place that was just dirty and grungy. And we said, we can fix this up and start storing cars here. And
storage justifies, helps pay the bills for the facility, and then you have somewhere to bring clients to.
Absolutely.
If they want to.
Absolutely. So the building wasn't necessarily something that we really wanted. It was something that more happened to us, and that the response to that has just been an explosion. I mean, we have 55 cars in there. I was hoping, you know, by this time, we bought the building in June of last year, 2018. And I was like, if we can have 30 cars in here a year from now, so June of 2019, that would be great. And now we have 55 cars in there.
That's
and
awesome.
We can hold about between comfortably 70 to 80 without adding any type of lifts or racking system. And we talked about that.
Yeah.
You know, we want the place to feel more like a museum or a lounge rather than a shop.
Yeah.
And so we're not, you know, we're going to try to make it work where you don't add lifts in the car, in the space, because it really changes the feel of the way that it is. And so from there, I think we just keep what we have and remain content, not try to grow too much.
Going straight.
I've been given a lot of advice, and you know, you have mentors in the business too, right? It's really important, and you've taught me this, to have people that you look up to, or have mentors that can help guide you, and they become ambassadors in your company. For me, that has become people that were first clients, and then as I've spent a lot of time with them, have become friends. Yeah. And they've given us, they're so willing. They're so willing to just, these are really successful business guys that have either, they're movers and shakers in their respective towns, whether it's Atlanta or San Francisco or Denver or New York or Dallas or even Miami. These are a lot of the hubs that we have core people in.
Yep.
They want to give you advice. They want to help you out. And so one of the core pieces of advice that they've given to us is not to grow too fast. You know, we grew this company very organically, and not to grow too fast, to spend our time focusing on what we're good at. So continue to have a niche in the GT market. The GT3s, GT-RSs, continue to focus on that, because that's what we're really good at. And then slowly take on more things. So don't grow too fast. So the next thing that we're going to be going into is air-cooled. And the 918 is what really helped me fall in love with this car and understand this was, you know, the next vintage classic Porsche. But I find myself going backwards more and towards the air-cooled cars. So it's not about going fast or feeling like we have to drive really fast, because all the cars, the 720S, the GT2 RS 2018, all these cars are so incredibly fast. But going backwards and really having the emotive, raw experience in the car is what I find.
I've been thinking about that a lot.
Yeah, so your early 70s 2.2 T's or S's, or even the 2.4, 73, these are really raw, exciting cars. The 993s, right? I think those cars are incredible. So Merit's focusing next on the air-cooled market. The air-cooled market has come down just from a value standpoint about 20 to 30% over the last few years. The highest was in 2014, 2015 for the air-cooled market.
Still at a peak.
No, we've dipped on those cars about 20 to 30% over the last couple years. So it could continue to drop, but for the really good cars, again, it's hard to find those cars. And so for the really good examples, they're still, you know, commanding good prices for those cars.
I'm inclined to find a beat up one and just completely restore it.
So you want to hot rod an early 70s car, or what?
No,
what year do you like?
I think I want early 80s.
Okay.
I think.
Like an SC or like a 911?
I think an SC. I need to do a little bit more research on. You know, a lot of people tell me, 964 or newer is better, like a 993 is better to do because it has power steering and power brakes and things like that. I don't know. But what I would want to do is put it on a rotisserie, gut the thing, and then have like the most ridiculous paint job on the planet and sand it flat, and then build I would want a modern suspension, modern brakes, but have the vintage, the older feel. So I don't know. You basically create a resto mod type 911.
Yeah, so then I guess you're really asking yourself the question, what's the best chassis?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, that's a fun discussion. I think that the 964 is obviously Singer has done a ton, for that market, and a lot of guys are doing that. The late 80s are great years too. I mean, an 88, 89, 911 Carrera.
Yeah.
Great platform, fantastic chassis to do that with.
I would want more power. I'd want to make it better. Like, I don't want like a vintage period correct collector. I want to mess it up, make it my own.
I like that, man. I love that. Yeah, I think there's something that's really freeing in not having to worry about, what's wrong with it, right? Find a mutt of sorts,
Yeah, but
that's
see, my tendency is I would have a hard time going and buying something crappy. I'd want to buy something nice and then just tear it apart.
Okay.
So that sounds like a big waste of money,
It typically is, if you're going to find the best example. I mean, is that just from your obsessed nature?
Take like my S2000. I bought the best CR on the planet, and the car would have been worth more if I just left it alone. But I want to have Volks and Olins and and I supercharge it, and I want to make it better. Because the S2000 sucks by itself, stock. So anyway, I would want I'd want an 81 SC that was really nice, but then I'd want to tear it apart and rebuild it, repaint it. So it wouldn't
do
make
what you're
sense,
passionate about.
It wouldn't make sense to buy like a perfect, numbers matching, amazing example. It would make more sense to buy something a little ratty
and improve it.
Yeah, but I would want something in between. We shouldn't have slept in. We should have slept in and come out later.
And then we wouldn't have gotten it driven and drive it in the rain.
Yeah, well, you can have the rain.
So what are your thoughts? I want to hear your thoughts around the Carrera GT. We just spent about 200 miles in it. Key takeaways.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have a hard time with 30K every 3 years. And not even the cost of it, but just the inconvenience of, I guess you just have to find the right tech. You just turn it over and you come pick it up. But
yeah, you're right. The mechanic.
I love the analogness of it. I mean, you can feel instant throttle response in the car. Yeah, I like it. I like it more than I thought I would, because it's a car that just doesn't even occur to me. Like I don't know. It's not one of those things that I've wanted. I wanted a GT3 RS. I chased that hard. I have that, and so I don't have like aspirations to own a car like this. So it's a little different thought process for me. So, but I really enjoy experiencing it. I like I don't want to. I told you I didn't want to drive this car. I don't want to.
Oh, I want you to drive it so bad, man.
I don't want to. How about next year? Maybe next year, but I just don't. It's hard to explain. I don't really want to know what I'm missing. But I enjoy this sitting here and talking about it and learning about the process and learning about the why and how and what it's about. Just to bank in the back of my head, and driving it doesn't, it taints it for me, because then I want it, and I don't want to want it. You know what I'm saying? Because I'll get it, I'll make it frickin' happen, and I don't want that. And it's part of the reason why I don't spend times in like Ferraris and Lamborghinis and stuff like that. I don't want to want it.
It's a slippery slope, isn't it?
I have to be really careful with that. It's part of the reason why I don't drink. It's part of the reason why I don't drink coffee. It's part of the reason why I don't do certain things, because like one of the things I struggle with, I always gain weight. I struggle with eating. So like as soon as I break the seal, it ruins me. Like if I have one chip, I'm gonna eat the whole bag. So that's part of the reason why I don't want to want it. It's the only way I can.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, you know your personality, you know yourself. I mean, that shows a lot about your identity. I think that a lot of guys just don't know what they want, or they don't know, themselves well enough, like what you described. So it's really cool that you've done that discovery, and you know that about yourself. But just know, this car is here next year for you to drive. And
Right.
I want to make that happen.
Well, thanks for the conversation. Our battery's about to die. And I hope you guys enjoyed that video of us talking life and business in a Carrera GT. Well, I think this is what I need to do. Just do all videos in a Carrera GT. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks, brother.
You're welcome, man.
Also, I'm sure we'll be doing more stuff together in the future.
Thanks, guys.
As always, stay tuned for more crazy.
Cheers.